What might compel a child to bury her toys in the backyard under the pale moonlight? Picture a tranquil night in a quiet southern town. The crickets are singing their nocturnal symphony, and the moon is casting long, ghostly shadows. In the middle of this serene setting, a little girl is hard at work, her small hands covered in dirt as she digs tiny holes in her backyard. She's not looking for buried treasure, nor is she planting flowers. No, she's burying her dolls, one by one, with a solemnity that's far beyond her tender years. From the kitchen window, her mother watches, brow furrowed in concern. Her little girl, who should be tucked up in bed dreaming sweet dreams, is out in the yard conducting a strange and eerie burial ceremony. The mother's heart aches with unease, but she tries to keep her voice steady, to conceal the tremor of apprehension. "Darlin', what are you doing out there?" she calls out, her voice echoing in the silent night. The girl looks up, her eyes reflecting the ethereal glow of the moon. "Mr. Phantom told me to bury my dolls tonight," she replies, her voice as calm as a still pond. The mother's heart skips a beat. "Mr. Phantom?" she echoes, a chill running down her spine. "Yes, Mama," the child says, turning back to her task. "Tomorrow night I'm going to bury our dog. And then—" she pauses, her tiny spade digging into the earth. "And then you, Mother." The mother's blood runs cold. Her daughter's words hang heavy in the air, a sinister prophecy that sends shivers down her spine. She clings onto the kitchen sink, her knuckles turning white. She forces a smile onto her face, a desperate attempt to mask her growing fear. After all, it's just a child's imagination, isn't it? And as the mother's heart pounded in her chest, she asked, "And what did Mr. Phantom tell you to do next, sweetheart?" An unseen friend can be a child's greatest companion or their worst nightmare. In the quiet, secluded world of a young girl, a voice resonates, a voice known only as Mr. Phantom, a spectral confidant, an invisible guide, directing her small hands to carve out tiny graves in the earth. Her mother watches, concern etched in the lines of her face, as the little girl, with a seriousness belying her tender age, carefully places her beloved dolls into the freshly dug holes. "Sweetheart, what are you doing?" The mother's voice trembles, unable to conceal her unease. The girl, her hands covered in the cold dirt, looks up, her innocent eyes meeting her mother's worried gaze. "Mr. Phantom told me to, Mama," she replies, her tone matter-of-fact, devoid of any childlike whimsy. "He said I have to bury my dolls tonight. He said it's important." Attempting to dismiss the unsettling conversation, the mother laughs nervously. "Oh, your imaginary friend has quite the imagination himself," she jests, aiming to diffuse the tension. But the girl, unsmiling, continues her task with a grim determination. "He's not imaginary, Mama. He's real. He's here." A chill runs down the mother's spine, the laughter dying in her throat. There's something in the girl's voice, a certainty, a conviction that shakes her. This isn't a game, she realizes. This isn't make-believe. "And then, Mr. Phantom told me what I have to do tomorrow night," the girl says, her voice dropping to a whisper, her small fingers closing around a handful of dirt. "He said I have to bury Max, our dog." The mother's heart skips a beat, her blood turning to ice in her veins. The seriousness in the girl's voice, the specificity of her actions instills a growing dread. The world around her spins, the implications of the girl's words sinking in. "And then, Mother," the girl's voice continues, her gaze unwavering, "Mr. Phantom told me what I must do tomorrow night." When a child's game becomes a mother's dread, what dark secrets could be unearthed? In the quietude of a suburban home, a mother's heart wrestles with a chilling predicament. Her daughter, once the source of joy and laughter, has now become the harbinger of a growing dread. The child's innocent play has morphed into a haunting tableau, a young girl, her dolls, and the freshly dug graves awaiting them in the backyard. The mother tries to reason with the girl, her voice trembling with a fear she dares not name. She pleads, she cajoles, hoping to penetrate the enigmatic veil that has descended upon the child. But the girl remains resolute, her tiny hands unyielding in their task. She is just following orders, she says, the orders of Mr. Phantom. The mother's fear escalates, sharpened by the cold edge of helplessness. She tries to dismiss it all as a child's game, a figment of an overactive imagination. Yet, the persistent whisper of unease refuses to be silenced. It gnaws at her, a relentless specter, sowing seeds of dread that take root in the fertile ground of her mind. She contemplates intervening, physically stopping her daughter from continuing this morbid game. But something holds her back, a gut-wrenching fear, a premonition of something far more sinister at play. The words of her daughter echo in her mind, a chilling prophecy. Tonight, the dolls. Tomorrow, our dog. And then, you, mother. The narrative shifts, focusing on the mother's internal struggle. A battle rages within her, a tug-of-war between the rational and the irrational. She is caught in the crossfire of dismissing her daughter's actions as mere child's play and yielding to the terrifying possibility of a looming threat. As the day gives way to night, the mother watches, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. The moon hangs heavy in the sky, casting long shadows that dance eerily around the girl. And still, she continues her task, her small hands never faltering, digging deeper into the earth and into the heart of her mother's growing dread. The moon hung heavy in the sky as the girl continued her eerie task, her small hands never faltering. Can a mother's love shield her child from an unseen evil? As darkness envelops the quiet homestead, the mother, shrouded in confusion and dread, seeks out her little girl. She finds her in the backyard, the moonlight casting long shadows over the tiny, freshly dug holes. "Darlin', we need to talk about Mr. Phantom," the mother begins tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. She crouches down next to her child, her hands trembling as they brush away the dirt smeared on the girl's rosy cheeks. The girl, her eyes wide and innocent, looks at her mother. "Mr. Phantom, he talks to me, Mama," she says, her voice filled with a chilling certainty that sends icy tendrils of fear coiling around the mother's heart. The mother, desperate to understand, clenches her fists, her nails digging into her palms. "What does he tell you, sweetheart?" she asks, her voice wavering with suppressed terror. The girl's next words, spoken with an eerie calmness, are like the tolling of a death knell. "He told me to bury my dolls tonight," the girl says matter-of-factly, pointing at the tiny mounds of earth. The mother's breath hitches. "Tomorrow night I am going to bury our dog," the girl continues, her voice ringing clear in the still night air. The mother, her heart pounding against her ribs, forces herself to ask the question that terrifies her the most. "And after that?" she whispers, her voice barely audible. The girl turns her gaze to her mother, her eyes gleaming ominously in the moonlight. "And then you, mother," she says, her voice echoing through the silent night, leaving the mother frozen in terror. The air around them seems to grow colder, the shadows deeper, as the chilling words hang heavily between them. "And then you, mother." The final command of Mr. Phantom, whispered by an innocent child, promises a terror that lurks in the shadows, ready to strike when the moon is high and the world is asleep. The mother, trapped in a nightmare of her own making, can only watch in silent horror as her world spirals into darkness. And then, you, mother. When the veil between the seen and unseen thins, who will be left standing? Those chilling words from her daughter still echoed in the mother's mind, reverberating through the stillness of the night. The silence was deafening, and in it, her fear festered and grew, fed by the horror of her daughter's words and the uncertainty of what was to come. She stared out at the moonlit backyard, at the innocent-looking tiny holes that held a terror far beyond their size. Each one, a grave for her daughter's dolls, a testament to the growing dread that was now a constant companion. Her heart pounded in her chest, drumming an ominous beat that matched the tick-tock of the clock on the wall. Each tick, each talk brought them closer to the terrifying promise of the next night. The night her daughter said she would bury their dog, and then her. The thought sent a shiver down her spine, a chill that no amount of warmth could dispel. Who was this Mr. Phantom? A figment of her daughter's imagination? Or something more sinister, a malevolent entity pulling the strings in this macabre play? The questions haunted her, danced around in her mind, refusing to be silenced. She looked at her daughter, asleep and peaceful, so starkly contrasted against the terror she had unwittingly unleashed. Could she protect her child from this unseen force? Or was she too just a pawn in its cruel game? The night wore on, each passing moment heavy with dread. The mother's eyes traced the path from the tiny graves to her daughter's bedroom window, her mind painting terrifying images of what might come. Her fear was palpable, a living entity in itself, feeding on her terror, growing with the passing hours. And as the first light of dawn crept in, The mother was left to contemplate the terror of the coming night. Y'all, we're wrapping up here, but don't you go anywhere just yet. Show some love, hit that like button. Fancy more content like this? Go on, subscribe and let that bell icon ring so you won't miss a beat. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next time, stay tuned.